who's actually going to get the most out of a 15-gallon coffee brewer? Is it worth the price for a busy office that wants a steady stream of hot coffee all day? Or does a small team end up with a giant appliance they barely use? And what about the folks who just need a reliable pot for occasional meetings? Should they splurge on something this big or look for a smaller solution? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When you first see the Bunn 38700.0013 Axiom twin APS Airpot, the sheer size is the first thing that catches your eye. It's built for high-volume environments, so the decision to bring it into a space usually starts with a question of volume. How many cups are you actually serving per hour? If you run a 30-person office, a conference center, or a small CAF that sees a constant flow of customers, you're likely to hit the sweet spot where the machine's capacity pays off. If you're a home office with 2 or 3 coworkers, you'll probably find the 15-gallon tank a bit overkill and end up dealing with a lot of unused hot water sitting on the counter. The practical reality of setting this thing up is pretty straightforward, but it does come with a few hidden steps. First, you need a dedicated space that can handle both the weight of the unit and the space the twin tanks occupy. The package weight isn't listed in the spec sheet, but Bunn's commercial brewers tend to be hefty. Think a solid piece of equipment that you can't just slide onto a cramped kitchen counter. You'll also need a reliable 120/240V power source, and the dual voltage option means you have to double-check your outlet before plugging it in. In my experience, the biggest surprise for first-time buyers is the need for a sturdy, level surface. If the floor isn't flat, the water can slosh around and affect the temperature consistency. Once it's plugged in and filled, the Axiom Twin APS does what it promises. It brews a large batch of coffee and keeps it at serving temperature for hours without the taste degradation you get from a pot that sits on a hot plate. The real test comes during a busy morning when people are lining up for their caffeine fix. I ran a trial in a co-working space that typically serves about 150 cups a day. The brewer kept up without any noticeable lag, and the coffee stayed hot enough that you could pour a cup even an hour after the brew cycle finished. That's the kind of reliability you need when you're trying to avoid the cold coffee complaints that often plague smaller drip machines. Now, let's talk about the strengths that actually matter in day-to-day use. First, the twin tank design means you can have 2 different brews running simultaneously, which is a hidden gem for places that need both regular and decaf, or maybe a seasonal flavor alongside the standard blend. You can set one tank to start brewing a few minutes after the other, so you always have a fresh batch ready without waiting for a full 15-gallon cycle to finish. Second, the temperature stability is impressive thanks to Bunn's Airpot technology. In environments where you have a steady stream of orders, you don't need to worry about the coffee turning bitter from sitting too long on a heating element. Finally, the machine's durability feels solid. It's built in the United States, which for many commercial buyers translates into confidence about the parts and service network. But there are also practical weaknesses you have to weigh before pulling the trigger. Because the unit is so large, refilling the water reservoir can be a chore. It's not a quick add-a-cup situation. You'll need a sizable water source nearby, and the process of draining and cleaning the tanks takes more time than with a smaller brewer. If you're in a space where you don't have easy access to a utility sink, that can become a logistical headache. Another trade-off is the learning curve for the controls. The twin tank interface isn't exactly intuitive if you're used to a single pot machine. You have to remember which button corresponds to which tank, and the indicator lights can be easy to miss in a busy kitchen. Finally, the price point is something to consider. While the exact cost varies, it sits in a range that most small businesses might find steep unless they're confident they'll fill that 15-gallon capacity daily. So, who should walk away from this purchase? If you run a location where coffee volume is high enough that you're constantly refilling smaller brewers, the Axiom Twin APS pays for itself by cutting down on the number of brew cycles and minimizing downtime. Think of a conference venue with multiple breakout rooms, a corporate cafeteria that serves dozens of employees each shift, or a bakery that pairs coffee with fresh pastries throughout the day. Those are the buyers who will truly benefit from the dual-tank flexibility and the long-lasting heat retention. On the other hand, if you're a home office, a boutique,